I don't know what to say, really. It's just, I find it hard to believe we're in this situation again. I really do. About 12 years ago, Paul is here. About 12 years ago, I attended a meeting up in Islington. It was the first meeting to found the Disabled People Against the Cuts. And the reason people came together then was because George Osborne was introducing the early stages of austerity. And what the Tories decided to do was that they thought the best thing, the best strategy they could pursue is really launch the cuts against people who they thought couldn't fight back. And so they chose disabled people. And everything that was said then, I'm trying to remember the number of the speeches that took place, but everything that was said then by people warning about the human suffering that would come as a result of austerity, the harm it would do, but particularly the risk to life for disabled people, everything that was said then actually came true. And I spoke at a PCS online rally a week or so ago, a fortnight ago, and I was close to tears because you look back and you think of all the people that worked alongside us in those campaigns. Some of them, I'm sure Paula has said, no longer with us, and some of them no longer with us because of what was inflicted upon them by that Tory government. And when Labour was elected last year, maybe I was a bit naive, but I genuinely thought that it would be the end of austerity and that we'd start rebuilding our society. And for the life of me, I never thought I'd see a Labour government cumulatively hurt our working class people in such a scale in such a short period of time, because it isn't just about this round of cuts. It was the refusing to scrap the 2-child limit, which meant another 500,000 children would go into poverty, remain in poverty. It was the winter fuel allowance, where we know a lot of pensioners were freezing this winter. Then it was the increase in tuition fees above the rate of inflation to hit young people. And then it was overseas aid being cut in half when we know people across the globe are starving. Even then, with all that, I still didn't expect them to come to cut benefits for disabled people, and certainly not on the scale that's happening now. And on the day itself, when it was announced, spring statement, we never got the impact study from the government immediately. It was delayed coming out. And I'm sure you've gone through all the numbers of the government's own assessment of what they said the impact would be: 250,000 more going into poverty, 50,000 children. But then the Joseph Rowntree Trust and Resolution Foundation, many others, have just said it's nowhere near that. It's much bigger than that, huge in comparison with what's gone on before. And I'm getting emails from constituents explaining their own personal circumstances. And I said the other day in an interview, you could, reading some of these, you could really weep, because people are terrified, they're really fearful, but they are accurately assessing the situation about what benefits they'll lose. And I'll just give you two more examples that I chair an unpaid carers group nationally, and we come together. We've been lobbying for months for increases in carers allowance, more support, respite care. And these are people, you know them, they're people who look after another family member. They devote their lives and they go through all the challenges of that. And as a result of that, they get a very small carers allowance. But now, in the assessment the government put out, and I think it's an underestimate, the government estimate there'll be 150,000 carers who'd lose their benefits because the people they're caring for no longer qualify for PIP. And these are people who donated their lives. And we did a calculation. It was done by the Carers UK and others. about the billions of pounds that's saved as a result of people looking after members of their family and becoming carers themselves, often giving up their own careers, that sort of thing. And yet we're taking benefits away from 150,000. And the other one, I was in the debate yesterday. I'm part of an all-party group that's been working on eating disorders for the last 6-7 years. And we produced a report in January about the need to tackle this as a major problem, particularly for young people. And again, it's the same thing where their families care for them, but often they're very fragile, they're very frail, and some have died as a result of anorexia 1. And there's been a number of suicides as well as a result. And it does affect adults, but it's mainly young people. And yet we're taking the benefit away from all those under 22, as though young people don't experience disability or sickness or ill health. It's just so callous and so brutal what the government is doing. So my view now, just very briefly, I know you've lots to speak. My view now, we just have to stand up and be counted now. We can't stand back and let this happen. I'm not going to stand back as an MP and watch a government effectively harm my constituents. And I know that some of them, as a result, will not survive. I can't stand by and do that. So I'm going to do everything I possibly can to prevent this happening. And that means meetings like this and others around the country, winning the argument, convincing people about how bad and unnecessary this policy is, and then mobilizing people. And the mobilization has got to be to put pressure on government ministers to change their mind. We've been offered, as Martin said, there's so many alternatives where they don't have to do this. Marginal increases in taxes on the wealthiest and on the corporations. And we're not talking about, revolutionary policies. It's marginal increase on taxation, and we wouldn't have to have these cuts. That's all. A slight redistribution of income and wealth in our country. We've got the arguments to win, but now we've got to convince MPs not to vote for this now. And so I just urge people now, contact your local MP, contact them, write to them, but go and see them. Go and see them. Just eyeball them and say, why are you doing this to disabled people? And if you're a Labour MP, you are not elected to impoverish your own people. And this is completely contrary to everything Labour stands for and was founded to do. And I think we have to face them, because there's a large number of MPs now, some of about 20 odd or 25, I think it is now, say we're going to vote against. But there's others saying that they can't support. Well, that's great. But to change that can't support into voting against is significant, because if we can create a climate of opinion, I think we can head this off at the pass. I think we can force a U-turn on this government. And even if people say, well, we most probably won't win, well, I think if we can build a solid enough campaign, I think we can. But also, I think Martin touched on this, it's about also heading them off from what they might do later in the November budget. Because if they get away with this, I fear they'll come for more. So it's time to stand up and be counted now, all of us in campaigning, but also in terms of MPs, the way they vote. And that's what I want to do now, is just throw all my energies into this campaign now and support DPAC and PCS and all those who are standing up, have taken the stand now. So final point for me, I've said to some of my colleagues, people remember this for the rest of their lives. It's one of those decisions that will stay with you for the rest of your life. And you don't want to be later in life looking back and thinking, actually, I should never have done that. So now's the time to actually, I think, explain to them, you don't need courage. You just need a bit of decency to stand up on this one.